Hi, thanks for tuning in to Fun with Fine Motor. My name is Carrie Larkham and I'm a pediatric occupational therapist. I've been working in the school system for the last 11 years. In this video, we are going to go over the basics of fine motor for the development of handwriting and cutting skills. First thing you need to know is that your hand has two sides. This is the precision side of your hand and the power side of your hand. It is very important to learn how to separate these two sides of your hand for writing and cutting. And when you're teaching a child how to write and how to cut, you need to make sure that they can separate the two sides of their hands. In fact, a child really isn't ready to cut or to write until they can snap. Now, they don't necessarily need to be able to make the noise, but they need to be able to go through that motion because that showed us that they can separate these three precision fingers from the power side of their hand. Now, when you're looking at writing or cutting and holding a pencil and holding scissors, you want to make sure that they use these three fingers and that the power side is tucked into their hand. So no matter what size utensil they're using, they need to be able to manipulate it with these three fingers. Now, the general rule is little hands, little tools. So you don't really want to use really big fat crayons or big fat markers because the bigger that utensil, the more likely they are to need to use more strength to hold it, and that means they're going to start using that power side of their hand since that precision hand side doesn't really have a lot of strength. So now a regular size pencil is appropriate for children that are a little bit older or for adults because even something really long is going to get very heavy when they're holding it. So when they're holding it, you want to make sure they're using those three fingers with that precision side with those power fingers tucked into their hand, and all three fingers should be touching that pencil clear down at the bottom. The other things you look for is this space right here open. This is called their web space, and it needs to be open in order to allow them to move their fingers. This is the appropriate way to do handwriting. They want to be able to use their fingers, not their wrist, not their arm to write and to cut. So when you're looking at how they're holding a pencil, look to make sure they're using those three fingers on there, that this space is open, and that they are able to move their fingers. Now for little ones, broken crayons are great. Just let them pick out their own size broken crayons, make a game out of being able to break their own crayons. They can hold it just like they would a regular crayon, or they can hold it on the side to color. We use a lot of broken crayons with our little ones. You can teach them to use regular crayons. Crayons are great. Dry erase markers are okay, but the crayons really give them a lot more feedback through their hand, and they're going to learn a lot faster using crayons opposed to markers or dry erase markers. I really love Crayola crayons because they've got this black line down at the bottom, so I teach all of our kids to hold on to that black line. Pinch it with those two fingers, lay it on top of their tall finger, power fingers inside their hand, and then they're ready to write. For little ones that are working on pencil skills, you can take these little tiny pencils like this, golf pencils or small pencils, or you can take a regular size pencil and just sharpen it all the way down until you have a smaller version, so that they can hold it and it lays back nicely in their web space. You want to make sure that they're not trying to hold it too far forward in their hand. You want it tucked back nice and tight into their hand. Now when you're looking at holding scissors, the best kind of scissors to find are the kinds that have this two same size holes here. The best way to hold a pair of scissors, the one that's going to give you the most precision control over a pair of scissors, is to put your thumb in one finger or one side. Pointer finger stays on the outside and wraps around the scissors, and your tallest finger goes in the other hole. Again, those power fingers stay tucked into your hand, and when you're cutting, you're going to want to hold those scissors really still, and your helper hand is going to work on manipulating that paper. So when you're cutting around a circle or anything, the scissors will stay still, and your helper hand will move that paper. Now, the most common scissors found today are these, and they have one large hole and one small hole. The problem with these is when you use them the way they're intended, kids tend to want to put all of their fingers in that large hole, and then they're not able to separate the two sides of their hand. So we teach our children to actually flip them over, put their thumb in the larger hole, wrap that pointer finger around, put their tallest finger in the second hole, and there they have it. Scissors will work the same no matter how they are turned. If they're turned this way or this way, they're going to cut just exactly the same. Now when you're actually looking at the development of handwriting, a lot of parents want to just jump right in and teach their children how to write their name, but they really need to learn how to write the basic strokes before they're ready to do letters and numbers. And we're going to go over the progression of those strokes. Now, After children have developed that ability to separate those two sides of the hands, after they're able to pick up a crayon and hold it the correct way by themselves, and after they're able to pick up scissors and know how to hold them the correct way by themselves, then they're ready to start working on writing with actually crayon and paper. There are a lot of other ways that you can do writing and learning those basic strokes and learning how to write their name without using crayons and paper, and we'll go over that in another video. Now, when you're looking at development of writing, you're going to want to make sure they're holding that crayon the right way, and the first strokes you want to teach them are vertical, and they need to go from top to bottom. Kids that learn how to go from bottom to top as they progress in their handwriting, that will actually slow them down and make their handwriting more laborious, and it's actually going to be a lot harder for them to relearn that later. So you really want to emphasize starting at the top, going to the bottom. Same thing with the horizontal. You want to go from left to right, with the exception of our left-handed children. Left-handed children, it is okay if they go from right to left. Now, after they've learned these two basic strokes, you want to teach them a circle. Circles need to start at the top. They need to go counterclockwise all the way around and end at the top. Again, if they're starting their circles at the bottom, it's going to slow down their handwriting as they learn how to write letters and numbers, and it's just going to make it a lot more tedious. It's going to tire them out a lot more, and it's going to be so much harder to relearn that skill later. So start at the top, counterclockwise around, end at the top. You're also going to want to teach them how to intersect lines. So you're going to go top to bottom, and then all the way, you start all the way over on the left and go across. You don't want them to start in the middle and bring those sides out. You want to teach them to cross all the way across. And then they're ready for a square, top to bottom, left to right to make that square. After they have learned those basic strokes, they're ready to learn diagonals. Left to right, right to left, and then teach them to intersect for a cross. And you can also then start working on learning to draw a triangle. The other two basic strokes that you're going to want to teach them are the curves. You've got the C curve and the backward C curve. Once they've learned all of these basic strokes, then they're ready to start putting letters and words together. Once you have all of these are the strokes that make up all of our letters and all of our numbers, so they're good to go on learning to write their name and other words at that point. Now, in order to develop those skills, you're going to want to start with using tools and tongs and manipulatives, and we're going to kind of go over just a few of them today. These are some of our favorites, but there's a ton of activities and a ton of ideas out there. So the first one I'm going to show you is one of our kids' favorites. This is a magnetic wand, and it's got magnetic chips on it. We use a lot of tongs and tweezers and tools that use just these three fingers. When you're holding on to tweezers, you're going to want to hold them like you would a pencil or a crayon. A lot of kids will try to pick them up and use them like this, but that is actually going to be counterproductive. You want to teach them to use it and hold it just like you would a crayon or a pencil. So thumb goes on one side, two fingers on the other side, and on this one they just take the magnetic chips off and put it into any kind of bowl. You can start working on sorting colors. You can count how many chips they had on. You can add, you can put three magnets in this bowl and 3 magnets in another bowl, and then how many do you have together, so you can really learn, work on math skills and sorting skills and literacy skills using any of these activities. Another activity we use a lot is a paint palette, and this has 10 little slots or 10 little divots in it, and we have a variety of tools that we use with our paint palettes. This one just has pom-poms on it. You can use 2 different colors and start working on patterning. You can use one color and start working on adding or subtracting. You can use lots of different colors like this and work on sorting. Really anything goes. This is called a strawberry huller or a strawberry tongs or strawberry pickers, depending on what website you look at. Again, you want to put thumb and 2 fingers on there, power fingers tucked into their hand, and they're just going to pick up the pom-poms and put one into each slot. These tongs are called little gator tongs. I like these because it has 2 circles on this side and 1 circle on this side, so it kind of shows them where to put their fingers. And you can just continue to use those. These are great tongs to start with little hands because they're small and they fit their hand a lot easier. The other thing we like to use is eyedroppers or pipettes. Again, they're going to hold it with these 3 fingers, and you can do a lot of science experiments with these. You can work on learning how colors mix. You can just color water with different colors of food coloring, and then they can drop a red food color or red water into this hole and then add some yellow to it and see what color it makes. Or you can just fill up the different holes with plain water. You can use vinegar and drop it into a cup with baking soda and watch it foam. There's a lot of different fun activities you can use the pipettes for. Another couple of tongs that we use a lot of. These are a little bit more difficult. They're probably a little bit more advanced in kids that for kids that have maybe progressed from using the little ones. This is called a zoo stick. It's a little bit heavier, so it needs to lay back in the hand like it would a large pencil, and it's easier if they hold them in the middle. Gives them a little bit more control over it, and you can use it to maybe pick up dice and stack dice, sort dice. These are little wooden blocks. You can use them to sort the colors of blocks. You can use it to stack blocks. You can draw letters on here, and they can work on lining up and learning how to spell their name. You can get the printouts with the letters that have the circles, so that the letters made out of a circle, and you can put a block in each circle to practice writing an A without actually writing an A, or writing a letter without actually learning how to form that letter using manipulatives, and learning how to separate those 2 sides of the hand at the same time. These tongs are called jumbo tongs, and they are actually very hard to squeeze, so they are not really very easy for little ones, but they're great for kids that have been doing this for a little bit and are working on really developing that strength in their hand. I like them because they've got 1 divot on one side, 2 divots on another side. They show the kids exactly where to hold them. Again, it needs to be back in their hand, and they don't want to hold them like this or like this. You're going to want to get those 3 fingers on there, and they work great with these little blocks, or with dice, or with little erasers, or with pom-poms. You can come up with all sorts of activities that you can do using tongs and tweezers, and really develop the precision side of their hand using that. Another great activity for learning how to use both hands together is just stringing beads. You're going to want to use those precision fingers on both hands, and just string those beads right onto the lace. Again, I'm not using those power fingers. They are tucked into my hand. With beads, you can work on patterning, you can work on counting, you can work on addition and subtraction, you can work on sorting, you can work on all sorts of things using just beads and lace. And another great activity that happens to be another one of our kids' favorites is the Feed Me Tennis Ball. This one just happens to look like a piggy bank, so we use it a lot with our kids that are working on learning the different types of coins. So this is just plastic coins. This one looks like a quarter, so we can work on, okay, this is a quarter, it's worth 25 cents, so we're going to feed it to the tennis ball, and now we're going to add 2 pennies. So how much has the pig eaten? Well, the pig has eaten 27 cents. But you want to make sure you're using those precision fingers to open that tennis ball. If a child does not yet have enough strength to do it with one hand, they can get that manipulative wedged in there, then use both hands to open him up and let it drop in. Now, he doesn't have to just eat the coins, he can eat just anything that will fit into there. So you can feed him the magnetic chips, you can feed him little pom-poms, anything that's small that can go in, you can feed it to him. So please be careful when you're using this with children. A lot of these activities are not meant for children under the developmental age of 3. A lot of these activities do contain choking hazards, so please make sure they are well supervised when you're using them. And again, don't use them with children under the developmental age of 3. Stay tuned for more videos. Check in with us for more videos on more ideas, and thanks for watching.